Hey everybody, hope you guys are all doing okay. Welcome back to Siralim Ultimate. We are starting on the save slot screen just to give you a sense of how long this save file has gone on. Although, first of all, let's acknowledge that it is a large number. It is past the 240 hour mark, which is more than 10 real life days at this point. However, let's jump into the game. However, that's a little bit misleading because I realized the number is a little bit inflated because ever since I started playing it on PC, I started out playing it on mobile, but on PC, one thing I've done a couple of times is I've left the game running in the background and then gone on to do something else, and then come back, 10 or 12 hours later, or even like muted it and then come back to it the next morning. So maybe about 30-40 hours potentially could be down to that, but still it's quite a bit of time, even if you take those hours away. Anyway, we're back into it. Last episode was a good one. We fought and killed... Well, did we kill? I don't think kill is the right word. Even though the final animation looked like a death animation, what really happened was the false god got bored and just left the fight, and we won as a result. But that is how you win that fight, at least. That is what the game tells us. Maybe there's some secret where you can actually kill that false god. If that's the case, that's going to be something to discover later. But for now, we won the fight in the obvious intended way, which was you last long enough and then the fight just ends and you win. Which is a really cool mechanic, making it very different from the way most fights go, and I really enjoyed it a lot. Aside from that, I think we also beat a master in that same realm, and I think we also found a card in random loot. This episode we have a regular Nether boss fight to do, King Andrick. Before we go in, I will check what the deal is with King Andrick. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? There you are. Tier 3. This creature and its allies always have an army of minions. At the start of this creature's turn, it casts Rapture. This means that the contagion spell, which we already have, could be useful. Contagion will turn the fact that your enemies have minions against them by giving them debuffs based on how many minions they had. So that is one potential way to do well in that fight. And other than that, we'll just see how well we do. Let's just go for it. Last episode we did Titan's Wound. Got a weird map where it was only a couple rooms. It felt very small, almost like a glitched spawn. Nonetheless, we talked to the god and saw most of that stuff, so I don't want to go back there. Let's just go into the torture chamber. The torture chamber, I believe, is another good place to have a boss fight because of the realm buffs and debuffs that you get, assuming we get a proper realm spawn where all of the objects are there and we're able to interact with them and get all the things that we need. But there's only one way to find out. Let's jump in and see what we get. Jump in and see what we get. Our goal here is, of course, to fight the Nether boss, but before we do, let us talk to Tartarith, the god of punishment, who will always talk to you in all caps. He says, "Hello." That's all he says. When we donate, he says thanks. Once again, that's all he says. And, you know, he's a man of few words. I respect that. And I really like this aesthetic. I like this visual. The hook in one hand, or maybe his hand is a hook, and the cleaver in the other hand. The blood-soaked butcher's apron thing. I don't know if that's what it's called, or if it has some other name. But nonetheless, it looks really cool. And then, of course, his face, or lack thereof. All you see is one glowing eye. Very, very cool. We get 150 favor, which puts us very close to the next favor rank. We also have 6 wandering enemies, and what else are we dealing with? Enemies have a chance to resist damage and good luck, which is going to make things extremely annoying. Our gems are also sealed after casting, which is also aggravating, but other than that, I think we can mostly manage. We also have a master in this realm. Ooh, and a nether realm, which we'll go to. Let's try and get some buffs for ourselves first, but of course we've been thrown into some combat. Can we just punch our way? It seems like we can. Why are we losing stats? Why are we losing stats? What was that? Deflective dragon armor. What the hell is deflective dragon armor? Who has that trait? Will we have to worry about that in the boss fight? Is the dragon scout. Okay. And shapeshifter. Huh. What are... I've got to be honest, I don't know what shapeshifter actually is. Like what their main trait thing, what their main gimmick would be. This is probably our master down here, this snake eyes looking dude, and got some more enemies. What are shapeshifters? Okay, so it seems we no longer have okay, well, enemies are going to be resisting damage annoyingly. It seems like we no longer have deflective dragon armor. Maybe that was a special shapeshifter thing. Maybe they gain random traits. If that is, that could make this boss fight very difficult indeed to prepare for. Anyway, oh, there are 2 enemies. I'm looking for some buffs and debuffs. Seems like we're not having a lot of luck. We are eliminating the enemies pretty quickly. Not sure what's going on there. Anyway, let's take on this. Oh, they're gonna cast. He's gonna cast that 7 times. If he kills our Rift Dancer, it's gonna make things really annoying. Okay. And you're gonna cast that 7 times. Are you? Oh god. And our Vivifier, I was gonna say, is probably gonna die because of Blight, but not quite. Not quite. So here's what you do, Vivifier. Just cast an Ethereal Reincarnation. This should kill them. Oh my god, what is even going on? I have no clue. But we killed that enemy, and now there are only 2 more wandering enemies. Interacting with that scroll gave us some stats, and took some stats away from the enemy, so that's our first thing that strengthens us in this realm. Now we gain some defense, enemies gain some speed. Finally, things are going our way. And these wells, I think, will buff us and debuff the enemy. Let's see what we get. We get leeching. Enemies are silenced. That helps for sure. Oof. Just attack the might. Are you serious? We were one hit away. Just do rabbit dementia. And now they're dead. So far, not doing that badly, but I feel like the boss fight could definitely cause some problems for us depending on what else is there. Ooh, and this person, Dark Thunder, wants to share some of his loot with us. Very kind of you. We got a treasure chest. Our final wandering enemy is zooming around close to the god altar. Let's just take care of you. Once again, this should hopefully finish these guys off. Unless they have some really annoying luck with the damage reduction, and one of them even resurrected, but we were able to shut that down, so good, good. So far, so good. I'm still feeling a little nervous about how the boss fight in particular is going to go, but before we get to that, we've even got... Ooh, we've got this Nether realm, and this exotic realm. So if we play our cards right, we could get an exotic creature. Alright, so, and we've got some loot as well. Here's one thing I'm gonna do. So these objects, these tables with skeletons lying on them, they will give you favor with Tartareth, but they're one of those objects where you'll either get a small amount of favor for free or a larger amount of favor. Oh, you know what? Speaking about favor, yeah, I forgot to hand in my pilgrimage mission. Yeah, that's on me. As I was talking about favor with the gods, I just realized I'd forgotten something. I should have done that. I should have done this at the end of last episode. Failing that, I should have done this before I started this realm. It's okay, it's fine. So, in that instance, we just got a bit of favor for free, which takes us to the next favor rank, which is fine. I'm not gonna get into any more of those because they can also lead to combat, and I don't want to get into optional combat until I've gotten all my other major things done. What are the other major things? Well, I want to collect all the buffs and debuffs, all these scrolls that are helping us out. Gives us Berserk. Bomb on enemies. Could be very interesting, especially for divination candle enemies. Bomb could also be good against the there's our Nether boss. Bomb could also be good against the master fight. We get Savage, Pleading, not the greatest collection of realm buffs and debuffs, but not the worst either. So far, things are okay. Now I think what I'm gonna do is, I feel like maybe we're missing one of our buffs, but maybe these are just all we're gonna get in this realm. Yeah, all we have here is one of these things, which give you a good amount of loot. I always do like objects like these, which give you good amounts of loot when you interact with them. No rare items, but we did find a card last episode, despite not even specifically farming for one. We just found it in some random loot, which is always good. Right now we'll go... not my favorite Nether realm. This will just give us knowledge with random creatures, which is fine. One thing I want to do is I want to check how much knowledge do we have with the Griffin Veteran. It's still only an E rank. When we hit D rank, we'll be able to do hunt missions. But I think we're just gonna have to get lucky and find knowledge from it from some random source. For now, let's see what we can do against this fight. This dire werewolf. Alright, maybe we can just punch our way to victory. That was easy. Alright. And we got the dire werewolf now in our bestiary and also ready to summon. That wasn't too bad. Now let's go for this master fight. We're gonna be fighting some Mythicants, and let's see what gear the Mythicant Master has to say. He says, "Never let anyone tell you Mythican." Oh, okay. Never let anyone tell you Mythicant, because you Mythican. I'm living proof that if you believe in yourself, you Mythican do anything. Let me show you how far I've come. And I guess he wasn't a ninja, he was a Mythicant. Now, because these guys are all fused, they look very colorful, but Mythicants by default are black. That's why he looked like a ninja. That's why he looked like a ninja. And how are we gonna do this? How about we do a let's just use a regular reincarnation on you. We have reflect damage. We don't have reflect damage. Now, I think the way we do this is I didn't want to cast Star Pact. I mean, we're gonna win, but that's my... You can tell I haven't fixed my sticky A key problem on my controller. Like, we got really lucky. That could have gone really badly. Star Pact is a really good spell. It is one of the spells that's like a core part of the build that I've linked. I've deviated from that build in some ways, in many ways, some of which have probably made the build worse, but one thing I have kept is the Star Pact spell, and it's a good one. It certainly was good enough to wipe those guys out. Now I think we just go for it. We just go for the Nether boss fight. We try our best, our darndest, and see what we can do. These guys are gonna have a lot of minions, so it's important that we go first. King Andrick appears to be staring right through you, very unsettling. Just as you decide to turn and leave, he raises his arms and begins to chant all manner of undead creatures spawn, and yeah, we are under attack. And look at all those minions that they have. Okay, if we can survive to get a single turn, we'll be able to cast this very cool spell, Contagion. Will they get those minions back? Yes, they will. What? Oh my god, they gained buffs instead of getting debuffs. Why? Pendulums, what? Like, When an enemy death creature would when specifically an enemy death creature would afflict your creatures with a debuff, they gain a buff instead. That's so specific and so annoying. But I think it means, well, first of all, we can arbitrate those buffs that they've gained and give them to ourselves. So in a way it helped that they annoyingly gained all those buffs, because we took them all away, including Rebirth. Now they're removing non-existent minions that we don't even have. Doing some other garbage. Okay. Okay, our Rift Dancer should also be back. Our Ebony End should also be back. This is so annoying. If we ever get another turn, maybe we can make something happen. For now, we are very much on the back foot. Yeah. That's such a weird thing. Like, if an enemy death creature is debuffing you, you get buffs instead. That is so weird. That is so strange. Yeah, they're just not letting us get a turn. They're just not letting us get a turn. Now, our Animatus is blind, which means, it means a couple things. It means, reincarnation isn't gonna work. It's gonna cast on a random target. So that's not good. But what else can we do? We can no longer cast Contagion. Fine. That's okay. What else can we do? Well, we could cast Rabid Dementia and attack somebody. But before we do that, let's cast Arbitration. Once again, remove all of their buffs. Give them to ourselves, including Rebirth. And hopefully our Ebony Ant does not die. Because if you don't die, then we can do some interesting things. Our Ebony Ant did not die. Are you silenced? You've got such a long list of status effects, but you're not silenced, which means finally, I think now Contagion should work, because this isn't a death creature casting it. Now they're getting debuffed properly. Okay, now they're getting debuffed for every minion that they had. And now I think they're in for a bad time. Now with our Dread White, how about just Archangel's Blessing? Yeah, just Archangel's Blessing. So play the long game in this fight. With our Rift Dancer, this is a very dangerous thing I'm about to do. You know what? You are also not a death creature, and because they still have all their minions, how about we just cast Contagion again? Yeah, they're getting even more debuffs. And now we just hope that they somehow kill themselves. Actually, no, with the Vivifier, let's maybe do something with Rabid Dementia. Okay, killed one of them, but one of the minions that they had is reflecting damage, which is why this happened. But we did have Rebirth. Oh, what did you? Whoa, they cast Arbitration. That is so bad. That is so bad because we've lost all our Rebirth. However, we're now gonna go now, are we? Okay, yeah. So maybe attacking them isn't the way to fight. Yeah, and see, we can only cast once. Are their spell gems also sealed? Are their spell gems also sealed? Because if they aren't, that just is not fair. You are confused and blind. Which means there's very little you can do to just defend. The Dread White should cast Arbitration. The Ebony Ent, maybe... Archangels? No, not Archangel Blessing. Maybe just Defile? In case some... like... Because a couple of them... Well, one of them doesn't have Defile. And the one who isn't Defiled is also pretty injured. And I don't want you healing. Okay, and with our Animatus, you've got a lot of buffs. How about we use up our Star Pact? And see what sort of damage we can do. Well, you died instantly because of the enemy. One of the minions, what it does is it deals damage to you based on how much damage you've done to it, which is exceedingly annoying. Now, what our Vivifier needs to do is, well, you can just... How about you use your macro? Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Double cast this spell. Do a bit of indirect damage. Kill one of them. Kill two of them. And corpse explosions can maybe do some good damage. Now there's only one of them left. Only one left. What to do with you? Well, let's try and bring back our... And... Oh, you're blind? That's really annoying. Let's try and bring back our Animatus. I guess we didn't need to. Centaur, Duelist. Despite seemingly being dead, because the first hit reflected enough damage to kill him, this feels like a bug as well. Because let's look at the... Well, let's get our reward first. Yeah, let's look at the battle history. Yeah, see, the Centaur Duelist was killed immediately, but somehow kept doing damage. The damage, the attack that our Duelist landed on King Andrick, unless I'm misunderstanding this, happened after he already died. So either this is misleading and things are happening in a different order, or there's a bit of a bug going on here. I'm not sure which of the two. Either way, we won. And if there's gonna be a bug, I guess it's like a bug that affects the battle outcome. Better for you to win rather than lose. But still, it would have felt a bit better if... Because like we were gonna win anyway. It would have felt a bit better if it was in a way that didn't feel dubious. But I mean, like, we've lost for dubious reasons as well, so, you know, this... It kind of balances out. Let's not worry about it too much. Let's just get the rest of our loot and even more loot, and we get another achievement for slaying Andrick in his most devastating form. I believe when we fight him in the next rotation, after we've killed all the Nether bosses in this go-round, we can fight them again and they'll be stronger, but they won't gain extra traits, I believe. Also, this object that is in front of us is an Iron Maiden. If you look closely, you can kind of see, like, you know, the nails on the door, and we're told that a horde of disgusting looking creatures bursts from it. So these are going to be lepers, and with this build, if you're using the same build as me, you've got to be very careful fighting lepers, because the crazed leper in particular... What? Hang on, something isn't correct. I thought lepers were supposed to have different traits. So maybe you don't have the trait that I'm talking about. I'm gonna have to go back to the bestiary after this, because something's a bit funny. So let's just do this. God, that guy resisted so many explosions in a row, but we dealt with him. Yeah, I need to go to the bestiary. I need to find the lepers. Gorgons, griffins, where... Here we go. This is the trait that a crazed leper is supposed to have. The same thing that our animatus does. After an enemy dies, it casts Corpse Explosion, which means if you're using reincarnation, even if you're doing it to yourself, that does count as one of your creatures dying. And this crazed leper will cast Corpse Explosion when that happens. And sometimes in these traits, in these realms, due to the realm modifiers, enemies can have massively buffed intelligence, and you can have your party wiped out before you even realized what was going on. So you gotta be careful when fighting lepers, or when enemies are fused with lepers. See, now this is the combat event for this object type. In this case, the fallen creatures swarm around you before congealing into their original forms and then attack. These are just a collection of different creatures, it would seem. So let's just maybe Rabid Dementia and make this a one and done. Yeah, they're not really challenging us too much. And Tartareth is pleased by that. He says, good one, you brought them back to life, then you hurt and killed them again. Well, I guess you could put it that way. And now let's interact with more lepers. You see, this time the crazed leper has the thing that it should. I don't know why it was missing the trait. It was definitely some combination of some fusion, some consequence of being fused, I believe, was why that was happening, I think. We've got a few more of these to interact with, and I think we are going to do some divination candles. But before we do, take a look around. Oh, have we not interacted with the... Oh, we have. It's just that, unlike other objects, it doesn't get removed from the map after you interact with it. Usually, it would get removed from the minimap, but that one doesn't. Perhaps a bit of a bug, anyway. Before we leave, let's summon Divination Candle enemies. As I mentioned, I'm going bottom to top, and just going with whichever is the closest to the bottom that I have not found the card for. You may be wondering, well, what about the treasure golem? Yes, I would very much like to find the treasure golem's card if it exists, but you cannot attract this creature. So there. Working on the Uralos, which are pretty annoying, but I think we'll be fine. And I mentioned it in a previous video, but I will go over once again why they are annoying. It's because they have a trait which again feels like it's implemented in a buggy way. Here's the way the game describes it. It's after they take damage, the creature gains 5% defense. And so I've attacked them and killed him in one hit. So the way the game describes it, they should only get that stat boost to trigger once. But instead, it happens per hit, even hits that aren't landing because the creature is already dead, and they gain their first stat seemingly before they even take damage, instead of after, which is a little annoying. You know what, I'm gonna cast... How about Finger of Death instead? Is that gonna... Is that gonna speed things up? No, that just slows things down even more. God, oh god. I really hope we can find the card for these guys quick. You see, they're gaining stats for attacks against nothing because the guy died on the first hit. Like, at that point, the person who has extra attacks should simply stop attacking because it's no longer relevant. But the game goes through all those redundant attack animations, and then these creatures are gaining stats based on those redundant attacks, even though it isn't actually fulfilling the criterion, which is on taking damage. You know, nobody was taking damage. They were gaining stats for no reason. Yeah, again, as I mentioned, either it isn't working correctly or it's working correctly and the description is... Or, like, the description needs to be changed to match what it's actually doing. Alright, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna assign you macro number 5. You should be able to cast it on yourself. And I'm going to change your strategy to the macro so that you're doing it by default and I don't have to select it manually. There we go. Now we just gotta wait for these guys to... Yeah, this surely doesn't... It doesn't feel like it's working as intended. Because it just feels like it's a bit too slow and a bit too irritating for this to be the way it was intended. That even against... Like, even for a non-event, an attack against a non-existent enemy, they're gaining stats and slowing everything down. Doesn't feel like that's how things should be working. Anyway, no. Let's just go through it. The farming has to be done at some point. Some enemies are gonna be annoying. We've just gotta suck it up. There are gonna be enemies that are way more annoying to farm than these guys. So let's not, you know, let's not be too delicate about it. The only thing that's happening is it's a little slow. We're still killing them in one turn of actions. There are going to be enemies that force us to do multiple turns, which is truly the worst kind of enemy for farming. Way worse than this. Why multiple turns? It's because they have scripted resurrections that you pretty much are forced to sit through. Scripted resurrections, or why did you dodge so many times? Was that just luck? Anyway, the reason, or the fact that that enemy dodged that many times, despite there not being an obvious reason, that's why I have my build the way I do with multiple attacks. It's because I don't want the fact that the enemy got a lucky dodge to be the reason that I've got to delay my victory over them by an entire turn. I feel that on the whole, having multiple attacks makes things go faster, despite the fact that it makes the build weaker in strong fights. In strong fights, you would instead replace that with inflicting stat loss on the enemy. Or keep the multiple attacks, but just replace the overkill with stat loss on the enemy. Because in strong fights, overkill is never going to trigger. Overkill only triggers when you do more than a third of the enemy's damage in one hit. And in the big boss battles, when enemies have, 30, 40, 50 million health, you're doing damage to them in smaller increments. So in those fights, overkill isn't helping you, but it is making these other fights a lot quicker, which is why I keep it. Yeah, so basically what I've done with this build is I've sacrificed some of the effectiveness against bosses and other strong enemies in favor of things that make trash mob fights quicker. Alright, let's get through the rest of these as quickly as possible. As quick as possible. And if we're lucky, one of them is going to drop the card. If we're not, we'll have to get it in a future farming session. And I mentioned overkill. Just as a reminder, overkill, because there are a lot of traits in this game and it's easy to lose track of what is what. Overkill is the second trait that I'm getting. This is via my item. If you do more than 35% of the target's maximum health and damage in a single hit from an attack, all enemies take 70% of that damage. And often this means you can wipe out the entire group with just a single hit, provided that single hit lands. That's where the multiple hits come into play, because it really annoyed me when enemies would just get a lucky dodge, which always seems to happen at the wrong time. Oh god, this combination of good luck and damage resistance is really aggravating. Also, let me check how long this recording has been going. Not that long, considering the fact that we had a boss fight. Helped by the fact that we killed the boss on the first go. Definitely helped by that. Alright, there are two more of these. Let's just finish them and call it a day. Oh, they are both annoyingly in this part of the map. This long corridor to nowhere. I don't think there was even anything in this area. I may be wrong, but I feel like I don't remember being impressed the first time I walked down this hallway. There might have been like a resource node or something. Right, last enemy. Are you going to give us what we want? The answer is... waiting with bated breath. The The answer is no. But we did get some resources. We did get some experience. We are now almost back up to 4 million power. And good amount of all the other resources as well. I'm not going to summon anymore. I think we are done. We did donate to you, did we not? Yes, we did. So let's just head back home and remind ourselves that we've got to hand in our pilgrimage mission. There we go. We got some loot. And we got favor with Alexandria. Start a new project. A new pilgrimage project. Well, let's check our Rune of Prophecies. The only thing left is to dig up buried treasure. If we handed it in now, we'd get 22,000. But if we fulfilled this, we would get this line with a decent amount of piety, and this line with also a good amount of piety. See, buried treasure isn't that uncommon. I'm actually going to hold on until we... This might... So if we get the buried treasure right away, it'll pay off. If we end up having to wait a while, it'll end up being a suboptimal play. But I would like to. Like, we're almost... It just feels nice to hand in a fully completed rune, so we'll hold on to that. But let's not forget, we do have to start a new pilgrimage with whoever is the lowest. What is our lowest favor rank? You're 26. Regalis is way ahead of everyone else. So a couple of you at 26. Let's go with Vulcanar? Who is it? Venedon? Tauren. Let's go with Tauren. And anything else? Well, you know, before we end off, I do need to plan what the next relic I want is, because so far only 3 out of our 6 creatures have relics. And relics are an important way to flesh out your build. Let's just take a look. Let's spend a couple minutes right at the end seeing what sort of relics make sense with our build. Who doesn't have a relic? The Rift Dancer, the Ebony Ent, and who am I missing? The Unicorn. And what are they mostly doing? Mostly they are casting support spells. So we want a relic that synergizes with a character who is mostly just going to be casting support spells, and as opposed to damaging spells on the enemy. Is there a relic that does such a thing? Let's think about that. So let's focus on maybe the relics that give you the intelligence stat boost. See, this could have been a really cool spell, a really cool relic, but most of... I think it depends on you casting spells offensively against the enemy. So after the bear attacks, the relic attacks. After the relic attacks, it inflicts inverted. And if you cast a spell manually, a random morph spell. Yes, probably not that. What does Blaze Fury do? After you cast a single target spell on an enemy, you get burning. Damage with an attack or spell. I mean, it's interesting. You basically get another form of resurrection at rank 100, but again, no obvious synergy. So this one is interesting. This is triggered by getting damaged. Okay, at the end of the bearer's turn, it provokes. This could be an interesting one for the Dreadwhite, but the Dreadwhite won't always get a chance to take its turn. But the automatic provoke is interesting. So this could be a good alt relic for the Dreadwhite. But before we think of alternate relics for creatures that already have relics, let's first think about primary relics for the 3 creatures who have no relics. On attack or on cast? Well, the unicorn resurrects on attack, but it doesn't make sense for that to cast twice. Yeah. What do you do? It's random minions, random stats, random buffs. Interesting. At the start of battle you gain proficient, alright, that's interesting. After the bear provokes, all enemies attack it. This could be another interesting thing for the Dreadwhite. Random arrow spells feels like it could be fun. What is this? What is this? This seems to have a synergy with Blighted. Alright. After this relic or the bearer attacks, it afflicts its target with Blighted, which is pretty good. After the bearer is attacked, it attacks the enemy. At the start of the bearer's turn, it casts minor healing on everything with Blighted. Rank 40, you become immune to Blighted. Rank 50, and things just get worse and worse for Blighted enemies the deeper you go into this relic's perks. That actually... I like this one a lot. Except that I don't know what the condition is for inflicting Blighted. Do you merely have to attack, or do you have to attack and do damage? Because a lot of our creatures will have a very low attack stat, and when they try and attack most monsters, it'll be a 0 damage attack. So I don't know about that. This is another intelligence relic. Again, it's on attacking. Again, it's on attacking. This one is at the start of battle, but it's a speed relic. Staff of Tenebris is interesting. At the start of battle, bearer becomes invisible. And then the relic attacks. Okay, the bearer keeps gaining intelligence. And after you manually cast a spell, even if it's not a spell on the enemy, you gain invisible, alright. After you're damaged by an attack, okay, you again 50% chance to gain invisible. The damage of the bearer's attacks is based on its intelligence. Now we're getting somewhere. Rank 80, additional attack equal to its intelligence. When you take damage, 50% of intelligence is added to defense. At the end of your turn, you cast Black Ice. Okay, I like this one. I think Whisper might be the way to go. Whisper and give it to the Rift Dancer. Alright, so that's the tentative next relic that we're going to go for. Anyway, that probably took a long time, and often I will do this sort of build brainstorming off screen, but every once in a while I'll do a bit of it on screen just to give you a flavor of, you know, the kind of thinking and the kind of planning that you need to do in this game, because it is very deep, but by no means is it too daunting for you to do yourself. I did admittedly take my build from the internet, but that was just as a starting point. I just needed a kind of a skeleton of a build that would work, and then I've been making my own modifications to that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. But once you get going, once you have, you know, a basic sense of what this game is like, you will be very quickly making your own decisions. And, you know, this is how you'll be making those decisions, by reading through the very long list of options you have before you and figuring out what makes the most sense for your build. Anyway, I think that is going to be all for this episode. There's another successful one. We completed the main objective. We beat the Nether boss pretty convincingly in the end, even though arguably there was a bit of glitchiness with the killing blow. But regardless, we would have won. We were always on the course to victory, and I'm pretty happy about that. Didn't find a card, didn't find any, you know, really special encounter other than the exotic creature. But you know what? It's fine. Everything counts. Everything is a tiny bit of progress on the road to 100%. A road that is still very long and treacherous. But you know what? Every episode represents another step along that path. But anyway, hope you had a good time. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope to see you again in the next one, where we are going to be doing some regular realms. So, yep, until then, take care.